By the way, I was given a book that was called The Wit and Wisdom of Keith Richards. And it's nothing but quotes from Keith Richards. It was so hilarious. My wife and I were on the floor laughing reading this thing.
He is
and I'll tell you something. Everybody looks at him as this burned out, drugged out rock and roller. He's a whole lot smarter than that. You can tell by the quotes in this book that Keith Richards, I think, is playing a little bit of a role there of making people believe that, because a couple funny things in the book. First of all, his quote of, I've never had a problem with drugs, only police. And I thought, is that perfect?
That's great.
He can take any drug, it don't hurt him, it's only the cops. Then there was another time he talked in there about how they were at a concert and him and Ron Wood were in the back and the manager walked in and said, the police are here. Well, he says, Woody and I are flushing everything down the toilet, and about 2 minutes later, Sting and Stuart Copeland walk in. and now Keith's ticked because they flushed everything down the toilet, and here it is, the police. Yeah, it's the rock band, the police. And then here's the brilliance of Keith Richards. You know, the cops in England were always busting him, chasing him down, all this. When he'd drive, well, he owned a big, huge Bentley. You know how he got away, how he solved that problem? He put 2 foreign country flags on the front bumpers, so when he'd drive by, they thought it was an embassy car who has diplomatic immunity, so no one would bother him then. He could get as loaded as he want, drive home, and they wouldn't bother with him because it's an embassy, diplomatic immunity, let him go. Now that's brilliance.
Actually, that's a good
to figure that one out.
Good question for you, actually. Who are the people that you admire? Who are your heroes?
Right today?
Yeah.
One of my heroes is Laird Hamilton. Do you know who he is?
Surfer.
The big wave surfer.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Laird, I read his book, and I admire him because of what he does. You know, riding waves that are 40 to 50 feet high. If you've ever gone surfing and been in the ocean and felt the power of that water. And what was unique about Laird in his book, he said that every time I do a TV show or whatever and they introduce me, they always call me fearless. And Laird said that's the equivalent of calling me an idiot. Because he said every time I ride one of these waves, I am frightened, I am scared. But he said, and I feel fear, but he said, I'm one of the unique individuals who can take that fear and channel it into performance. You use that fear, and that's what makes you perform. But, you know, like Laird said, calling me fearless is like calling me an idiot. And who would else? Oh, well, Keith's one of my heroes, Keith Richards. If you go back, this winter I do a lot of reading, and I've really become very close, and he's dead, with Jimi Hendrix. I read 2 books, Excuse Me While I Kiss the Sky, and then a more recent one on Jimi Hendrix. And I grew up with Jimi Hendrix, but I saw what a guitar player he was. But until I read his books, I didn't realize he is the greatest guitar player who has ever lived. He belongs with Bach, Beethoven, and those people. Because here was a man who grew up in such extreme poverty that the guitar was his way out. The guitar in his room was the way he could escape everything around him. And did you know he couldn't read a note of music?
I had no idea.
Not a note. It was all in the ears. Jimi Hendrix, like one time he met a guy who had to leave quickly and they were going to work together on a song, and the guy left all the music there. When he got back, he asked Jimi, did you read the music? And Jimi looked at him and confessed, and he goes, I can't read music. And now here's this guy that can't read music, and he also, you could take a guitar, reverse string it, left hand, right hand, any way you wanted, and Hendrix could play that guitar as good as if it was his own personal one. You notice how he always played upside down. And Jimi played right-handed, he was actually left-handed. I mean, this guy was a phenom. And yet in the end, what really angered me, the day that Jimi Hendrix died, he only had $21,000 in the bank. These managers robbed him blind. They sent money to these, Bahamas and all this stuff. And Hendrix, all geniuses I've noticed in my life, they're a genius at one thing, but then they lack at another thing because they're so genius that they'll have a negative to that genius. And for a man like Jimi Hendrix, it was all the music. It wasn't the money. And so in the end, for him to have a mere $21,000 in his bank account, these guys should have been locked up for 50 years who robbed from him like that. And so I would say Jimi Hendrix is one of my heroes now.
Two rock gods.
Two rock gods, a surf god. And let's see, and I'll tell you who else, in light of even all the bad publicity, Tiger Woods. Because, you know, between him and his wife, that's their business. But Tiger, I'm a golfer. And who's a greater golfer other than Jack Nicklaus still is than Tiger Woods?
No politicians, not Ron Paul?
He's not a hero of mine because Ron Paul and I respect Ron Paul. Ron Paul and I sit very much at the same table on many issues, but on other issues we don't. You know, I'm pro-choice. Ron Paul is not. I believe a woman should control her own body. So, you know, Ron Paul and I will differ. I respect him greatly for having the courage that he has, especially being a Republican and the things that he does. But politicians as heroes? No. I haven't found a one yet. And the one who might have been would have been Jack Kennedy, and I was in 7th grade when he got taken from us.